The house is so quiet that Elias hears the hum of the screen long after he closes the tab, as if the mugshot is still glowing behind his eyes. Rain ticks against the window like someone trying gently, then urgently, to come in. He doesn't want to believe the face he saw. Same eyes, same half-smile, same shadow of softness, yet carved into something colder. He whispers questions into the dim room, hoping the silence will choose lies over truth. He promised himself he would trust her. He promised her he would never doubt. But the image sits between them now, heavy as a locked door. Every message she ever sent feels suddenly brighter, too bright, as if she had been trying to blind him with tenderness. He scrolls back through their words, searching for the moment where truth slipped and the dream kept going without it. He wonders if love built from screens can survive a single hard light. And beneath everything, a quiet whisper asks, "If I ignore this, what does that make me?" Elias sits on the floor beside the couch, the laptop closed now, but the weight of what he saw still pressing on his chest. He replays the night she told him she had been the one at the roadside, her voice shaky but steady enough to anchor him. He remembers how grateful he felt, how easily he handed her a place in his life that no one else had earned. He told himself he was honoring the woman who stayed with him when he thought he was dying. But now he wonders if he simply wanted the story to be true more than he wanted the truth itself. He runs a hand through his hair and tries to breathe slowly, the room thick with memories and the echo of promises he doesn't know how to keep anymore. Her messages are still waiting on his phone. Small glowing reminders of a world that may never have existed the way he believed. He scrolls through their earliest conversations, the ones filled with shy pauses and careful warmth. Marin had written like someone afraid of being seen, yet desperate to be known, sending voice notes that made him feel like he was being trusted with something fragile. He had leaned into her rhythm without noticing how much he depended on it. Now those messages feel heavier, as if each word is a thread tugging him toward a truth he isn't ready to face. He presses play on an old voice note, letting her soft laugh echo around the room. It hurts more than the mugshot did. The laugh is too real, too tender, too human to belong to a lie, and that contradiction knots his stomach. Part of him wants to delete everything. Another part wants to hold on tighter. He doesn't know which version of himself will win. Elias steps onto the balcony, letting the rain touch his skin. The cold helps him think. Below, the streetlights blur into gold streaks on wet pavement, reflections bending like memories he can't trust. He tries to imagine Marin standing here beside him, the way she once described her favorite view from her own window. But now he wonders if that window even existed. He leans on the railing and listens to the storm as if it can answer him. He recalls the night she told him she wished she could meet him without fear, that she wanted to earn the future he imagined with her. Those words had felt brave. Now they feel like a warning he failed to hear. The rain thickens, and for a moment he imagines her voice weaving through the sound, asking him not to give up on. He closes his eyes, unsure whether the ache he feels is grief or love. Back inside, Elias wipes the water from his face and stares at the blank wall as if it holds answers. He thinks about the marriage promise he made so easily, fueled by gratitude and a need to honor the woman who stayed with him in the dark. He had imagined a future where he could finally thank her in ways that matter. But if the woman he knows isn't the woman who saved him, then who has he been loving? He feels the ground shift beneath him, the story he built collapsing in quiet pieces. Yet beneath the fear is something else. Curiosity, a pull he can't explain. He needs to know who she really is, not to expose her, but to understand what drove her to become someone else entirely. His phone vibrates with a new message from her, and the sound sends a shiver through him. He hesitates before picking it up, knowing the next step will change everything. Elias rereads Marin's newest message, the one that arrived while he stood dripping on the balcony. It's a simple line, nothing dramatic, nothing strange, just her saying she hopes he's resting tonight. It feels like a rope thrown across a widening gap, He types replies and deletes them just as quickly, afraid of revealing the unease he can't hide from himself. Instead, he scrolls back to the moment they first reconnected, when she finally answered the message he sent months earlier. Her words felt like sunlight then, gentle and unsure, grateful that he remembered her at all. Elias recalls how easily he believed her version of the night she saved him, how natural it felt to let her voice stitch itself into the unfolding days. He tries to locate the earliest tremor in their story, the first small wobble he ignored because hope felt better than accuracy. Yet the more he tries to map the past, the more it folds in on itself, refusing to give him a clean line between truth and longing. He remembers the day Marin sent her first voice note. Her breath wavered at the start, like she was deciding whether she deserved to speak at all. Elias played it again and again, not because of what she said, but because of the softness beneath her words. She apologized for taking so long to respond, told him she wasn't good at being seen, and he mistook that humility for honesty instead of a warning. He had been in recovery then, bruised in every way a person could be, searching for anything that made life feel connected again. Marin had slipped into that ache like she was built to soothe it. He wonders now if she sensed his vulnerability, or if she simply mirrored what he needed without thinking. Either way, he let her become the voice he waited for each evening, the one that told him stories of places he had never been, and fears she claimed she wanted to outgrow. All of it feels warm in memory, but warmth doesn't prove truth. Elias sits at his desk and opens their earliest saved chat thread, the one he labeled Day 1. Marin's messages from that time feel delicate, as if she were placing each word with careful hands. She asked him what he feared most, and he answered with blunt honesty, surprised by how natural it felt to trust her. She told him she feared disappearing before someone really knew her, and he had taken that as vulnerability, not foreshadowing. Reading it now, he can almost see the outline of a person trying to rewrite herself through him, leaning on his gratitude to create a space where she could be whoever she needed to be. The realization stings, not because she lied, but because he never paused to ask why she needed the lie at all. The truth feels more complicated than betrayal. It feels like two lonely people building shelter out of stories, hoping no storm would ever test the walls. He remembers the night she first called him by a nickname no one else used. It startled him, not because it was intimate, but because it felt like she had been studying him in ways he didn't notice. She said it slipped out, that it just felt right, and he believed her. Their connection deepened in those small, unplanned moments. Her sleepy messages after midnight, his photos of quiet corners of his day, the way she talked about hope as if it were something that might break if she held it too tightly. Looking back, Elias realizes she rarely spoke about her own past, always steering the conversation toward his. He filled the silence with details about his life, giving her everything she needed to build a version of herself that fit perfectly beside him. The thought leaves him uneasy, but not angry. More like someone realizing a cherished song was written in the wrong key all along. He scrolls to the moment everything shifted, the night Marin told him she wished she could meet him without fear. She said she wasn't ready, that some parts of her life were messy, but she promised none of it would ever touch him. Elias had interpreted her hesitation as shyness, not caution. Tonight, those words read like a confession disguised as comfort. He leans back in his chair, feeling the quiet, filling the room like thick fog. He knows now that the mugshot isn't the real shock. The real shock is realizing he built a future around someone he never truly understood. Yet, even with the confusion burning in his chest, he can't bring himself to hate her. There is something mournful in every memory he holds of her, something that makes him wonder if the lie was less about deceiving him and more about escaping something she couldn't bear to face. And that thought unsettles him more than the truth itself. Morning light slips through the blinds, thin and colorless, settling across Elias's face as he replays a memory he tried to forget. Months ago, during a late-night call, Marine's camera had flickered before she quickly shut it off, claiming her signal was weak. For a half-second, he saw something behind her. A street lamp, a storefront sign, nothing matching the quiet apartment she once described. At the time, he brushed it aside, telling himself he wasn't owed every detail. Now that moment drifts back like a whisper he failed to hear. He reaches for his coffee but doesn't drink it, staring instead at the steam rising in slow curls, imagining all the things she hid inside the pauses of their conversations. He wonders if she feared he'd stop loving her if he saw her world unfiltered, or if she feared he'd recognize something she meant to bury. The memory presses against him until he feels it reshaped the story he thought he understood. Elias searches his message archive for the interrupted video call. He clicks through old thumbnails, each one a snapshot of hope preserved in pixels. When he finds the clip, his pulse thumps harder, though he's unsure what he's chasing, proof of lies or proof that she once cared. He presses play and watches the half-second flash, pausing at the exact frame where her face blurs into the background behind her. The street lamp is clear now, a hard amber glow cutting across her cheek, and beside it, the edge of a boarded-up building. Not the soft apartment with bookshelves she told him about. He leans closer, squinting as if the truth might reveal itself the longer he stares. Instead, he feels a rising ache, a quiet grief blooming where certainty used to live. He wonders if she ever meant for him to see this moment, or if it slipped through the cracks the night exhaustion loosened her guard. He gets dressed and steps outside, needing space wider than his apartment walls. The air carries the chill of early afternoon, and the sky hangs low, pale as washed-out paper. Elias walks aimlessly through the streets, replaying Marianne's stories about her neighborhood. The quiet parks, the gentle evening breeze, the bookstore across from her window. Each detail feels soft in memory, like fabric worn thin from touch. But now he wonders if those stories belong to someone else entirely, borrowed lives stitched into place to impress or protect. He stops near a bus stop bench and sits, elbows resting on his knees, wishing he could pull apart every moment and sort truth from invention. Yet he feels something unexpected beneath the confusion. A pull of empathy, sharp and unwelcome. If she lied, she didn't lie cleanly. The cracks in her stories weren't careless, they were frightened, and that realization leaves him with more questions than anger. As he walks home, a memory hits him with unexpected force. Marin once sent a voice note filled with background noise she tried to laugh off. Car engines, distant shouting, the echo of something metallic hitting the ground. She had said she was near an open window, but he remembers now how her breath quickened when he asked if everything was okay. She changed the subject within seconds, guiding him toward one of his own fears instead. He hadn't noticed the deflection then, but replaying it in his mind now, he hears the tremor in her voice. The kind that belongs to someone trying to pretend their world is safer than it is. He pauses mid-step, unsettled by the thought that the lie wasn't built simply to deceive him, but to shield him from something she didn't want to explain. The possibility tightens in his chest, confusing guilt with compassion. When Elias returns home, he sits on the floor beside his couch, opening the folder where he stored Marin's earliest audio notes. He listens to the one with the strange background sounds, letting every detail sink in. The shouting in the distance is clearer now, rhythmic and sharp, nothing like the peaceful street she described. He imagines her sitting somewhere she didn't want him to picture, crafting a version of her life that felt safer than the one she lived. The thought reshapes him, filling him with a heavy mix of sadness and longing. He wonders what she feared he would think if he saw her real world, whether she believed he'd walk away or judge her, or whether she simply wanted to feel worthy of the future he promised. As the voice note ends, he presses the phone to his forehead and closes his eyes, feeling the truth inch closer like a shadow stretching toward him. Elias opens his laptop again, but this time he doesn't search for comfort. He opens a new tab and begins tracing every small detail he can remember. Street names. Marin mentioned only once. The mural she described seeing every morning. The cafe she claimed brewed the world's gentlest coffee. He types each clue into the search bar, watching the results shift, rearrange, contradict each other. Nothing matches perfectly. Some details overlap with real places. Others dissolve into dead ends. He feels like he is trying to solve a puzzle made of pieces that were never meant to fit. As he flips through old photos she sent, he notices something he missed before. Subtle inconsistencies in lighting, shadows bending at odd angles, tiny glitches in reflections. They aren't mistakes, they're fragments of a life held together with careful stitching. He leans back, heart heavy, realizing each image might have been chosen not to mislead him, but to hide her own world's sharp edges. The thought softens him even as it breaks him. He drags a folder of saved photos onto the center of the screen and begins examining them one by one. Marin, leaning against a sunlit window. Marin curled on a sofa with a book she claimed was her favorite. Marin sitting at a cafe table with soft golden light pouring over her hair. He zooms in closer and closer, searching for the truth hiding between pixels. The window view never changes. The sofa fabric never shifts. The cafe scene repeats with different expressions, but the same untouched cup beside her. Whoa. Elias feels a slow ache spreading through his chest. Not the sting of betrayal, but the strange sadness of realizing how much effort she put into shaping a world where she felt safe to be loved. He whispers her name into the empty room, not angrily but gently, as if afraid to disturb something fragile. His thumb hovers over a photo of her smiling at something outside the frame, and he wonders who she was before the lies, before the fear, before him. Elias clicks into their longest message thread, the one that began with her asking what he thought happiness felt like. He scrolls slowly, letting the words drift past like leaves on a quiet stream. He notices a pattern now. Every time he asked about her childhood, she replied with a question about hope or dreams. Every time he felt lonely, she poured her heart into paragraphs that soothed him instantly. Every time she hinted at something painful, the conversation ended abruptly. It becomes clear that she shaped herself around his needs, constructing a personality that held his wounds gently while hiding her own. A sorrow builds inside him deeper than frustration. He wonders if she ever believed someone could love her without the mask, or if she created the lie because she thought the truth would push him away. The realization hits him with unexpected force. The deception wasn't born from malice, it was born from fear. He opens a voice note. She sent during a storm months ago. Her voice trembles at the start, not from fear, but from something raw and unguarded. She speaks about wanting to become someone worthy of the person who saved me, even if I wasn't the one who saved you. At the time, he thought she meant she wanted to grow with him. Now those words carve deeper meaning. She knew even then. She knew the story she told him would someday collide with the truth, and she tried to wrap that truth in tenderness before it could hurt him. Elias places the phone on the desk and closes his eyes, letting the rain in the recording merge with the muted sounds of cars outside his window. The world around him feels suspended, as if waiting for him to decide whether to hold on or let go. Elias opens his final folder, the one labeled simply, "Use." Inside are screenshots of long conversations, saved memories, lines she wrote that carried him through lonely nights. He scrolls through them slowly, his heartbeat heavy with a strange blend of grief and gratitude. Her words were beautiful, yes, but they were also desperate. She had spoken like someone trying to write herself into a safer life, using affection like a lifeline. The realization hurts in a way that feels almost tender. He wonders if she ever expected him to find the mugshot, or if she lived each day, fearing the moment her carefully built world would fall apart. As he closes the folder, he feels a shift inside. Not anger, not betrayal, but a new clarity. The lie was real. The feelings were real. But now he needs to understand the story she never told. He whispers one question into the still air. Who were you trying to save? Me or yourself. Elias sits with the laptop glowing in the dark, the quiet thick enough to feel. He types Marin's name into the search bar again, this time adding the details he found in the Mugshot's corner. The results spread across the screen like cracks in glass, articles, arrest logs, scattered mentions of a life she never shared with him. He clicks slowly, afraid of what each link might reveal. Some pages show only glimpses. An old address, a note about unpaid fines, a brief report about a disturbance outside a convenience store. None of it fits the woman who whispered hope into his nights. Yet each fragment feels like a truth she tried to bury under warmth and philosophy. His chest tightens as he scrolls deeper. He isn't searching for proof of her lies anymore. He's searching for the loneliness that shaped them. The more he reads, the clearer the outline of her hidden world becomes, and the more he feels the fragile weight of caring for someone who built herself out of fear and longing. He opens one of the articles and reads it slowly, absorbing each sentence as if it's a confession she never gave him. A brief description of an arrest outside a rundown building. A mention of financial trouble, a reference to a relative she never spoke of. Each line pries open a new corner of her life, revealing pieces that don't match the warm woman who spoke softly about growth and healing. Elias feels his heartbeat slow, almost painfully, as he imagines her reading these same words about herself somewhere else, hoping no one ever traced them back to her. He wonders what she thought when he promised to marry her, whether she feared the truth would erase the future she wanted to believe she deserved. He wipes a hand across his face, feeling both closer to her and impossibly far away. The thought settles heavily. This wasn't just a lie. It was the version of herself she wished she could live up to. Elias picks up his phone and scrolls through their old conversations again, this time with a strange clarity. The lines that once felt mysterious now read like coded warnings. Her pauses weren't shy. They were protective. Her gentleness wasn't evasive. It was a shield against the life pressing in around her. He plays one of her recent voice notes, hearing the soft apology she gave for being slow to answer today. Now he recognizes the exhaustion hidden in her tone, the slight quiver of someone trying to keep two worlds from colliding. His throat tightens. The truth doesn't free him, and it doesn't condemn her. It simply reveals the distance between them, a distance built not by cruelty but by fear. He wonders if she ever sat alone, clutching her phone the way he is now, hoping he would never see the version of herself she was desperate to outrun. His hands shake slightly as he opens the mugshot again. This time he forces himself to really look at it, not as proof of deception, but as a piece of her story she never believed he could accept. Her expression in the photo is tired, yes, but not hardened. There's a kind of surrender in her eyes, like someone who stopped expecting gentleness long before she met him. Elias feels a sharp ache as he imagines her hitting send on their first message, knowing she was offering only a shadow of her real life. He traces the outline of her face on the screen, whispering her name into the silence. He realizes now that he never asked her what she needed. He only asked what she feared. And she answered him with stories shaped by hope instead of truth. For the first time, the mugshot doesn't feel like the death of their connection. It feels like a doorway she never believed she deserved to walk through. He opens a blank message window and stares at it for several minutes, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat. He wants to confront her, to demand the truth she kept from him. But the words refuse to take shape. Anger feels too simple. What he feels instead is a quiet, aching need to understand the world she hid behind gentle sentences and carefully chosen smiles. He types her name, erases it, types it again. He imagines her seeing his message, imagines the panic that might ripple through her, the way she might curl into herself expecting hatred. That thought hurts more than anything else tonight. He exhales slowly and closes his eyes, letting the warmth of their past settle around him. When he finally begins typing, the words come softly. Not blame, not accusation, but a question he knows could either break their connection Or finally, bring it into the light. Can we talk? Elias keeps the message window open long after sending the words. He watches the delivered mark appear below his text, a tiny confirmation that she's still somewhere on the other side of all of this. Minutes slip into an hour, then 2. The silence feels heavier than truth. He imagines her reading it, imagines her hands shaking the way his do now, imagines her trying to decide whether to run or answer. When his phone finally buzzes, he flinches. Her reply is only 3 words. "I'm still here. Nothing more." The simplicity of it tightens his throat. He types again, asking if they can talk by voice, if she can tell him what's real. The screen stays still. He feels the tension inside him shifting, not anger, but a deep sadness that settles like dust. He wonders if she's sitting in a small room somewhere, staring at her own screen, fighting the urge to disappear before he reaches her truth. Hours later, she sends a voice note. Just one. Elias hesitates before pressing play, fearing what her voice might sound like now that he knows more than she ever wanted him to. When he finally listens, the first thing he hears is her breathing. Shallow, uneven, almost apologetic. She says his name softly, then stops, as if the rest of the words weigh too much to carry. She admits she's scared. She tells him there are things she meant to share before the future he imagined became too bright for her to step into. Her voice cracks once, the sound small and unguarded. Elias sits perfectly still, letting every second sink deep. She doesn't explain the mugshot, doesn't defend herself, doesn't lie. She just whispers, "I didn't want you to see that version of me." The recording ends abruptly, leaving him with a silence that feels like a doorway opening and collapsing at the same time. Elias steps outside into the chilled night, unable to breathe inside the apartment any longer. The sky is a muted navy, clouds hanging low enough to touch. He walks with no direction, letting the cold work its way into his chest to calm the storm inside. He replays Marin's voice, note repeatedly, each listen revealing a new tremor, a new hesitation that feels like a breadcrumb trail into her real life. He finds himself wondering how long she lived trapped between who she was and who she tried to be for him. The thought hurts more than deception. It feels like witnessing someone drown quietly, hoping no one notices. He stops near a quiet intersection, staring at the blinking crosswalk light, and realizes he doesn't want revenge or explanations. He wants her to stop hiding long enough to breathe. The night air carries a faint hum of distant traffic, and for the first time he feels something shift inside. Understanding, fragile but real. When he returns home, another message from Marin waits. This time it's longer. A paragraph admitting she never meant to become so important to him, that the story of the rescue felt like the only thing she had that could anchor their connection. She writes that she watched him heal, watched him grow stronger, and feared that the truth of her own life would contaminate his progress. Elias reads the words slowly, feeling their weight. She confesses she almost told him everything weeks ago, but the promise he made, the one about their future, terrified her. She didn't believe she deserved it. As he reaches the end of her message, he feels a tenderness rise that surprises him. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something gentler. A recognition of the fragility inside both of them, woven into the quiet spaces of their story. He writes back slowly, choosing each word with care. He tells her he doesn't want the polished version, doesn't need the heroic myth she built around their first meeting. He asks her to tell him where she really was when she said she sat by a window watching the sunset. He asks what she feared most. He doesn't press for her past, only for her honesty. Minutes stretch, then an hour, then 2. No response. His chest tightens as he realizes she might be deciding whether to stay or disappear. Finally, long after midnight, a notification appears. Not a message, but a location pin. No explanation, no context, just a small red marker placed on a map. He stares at it, pulse rising, unsure whether it's an invitation, a confession, or a goodbye. But he knows one thing. The truth is somewhere behind that pin, waiting. Waiting. Elias doesn't sleep. He lies on the couch with the location pin glowing on his phone. The tiny red marker pulsing like a heartbeat he isn't sure he's ready to follow. By dawn, he can't resist the pull anymore. He gets dressed in silence, each motion slow, as if the morning itself is holding its breath. He keeps replaying her voice in his mind. The trembling pauses, the unfinished sentences, the fear beneath every confession. He isn't chasing proof now. He's chasing understanding, the kind that can only be found in the places someone tried to hide. As he steps outside, the sky is washed in pale gold, a color that feels too gentle for everything inside him. He wonders what she hopes he'll find. A warning, a plea, a version of herself she couldn't send through a screen. He clutches his phone and follows the map, feeling each step carry him deeper into the truth and closer to a woman he's never met, yet somehow knows. The pin leads him to the edge of town, to a small street lined with aging buildings and shuttered shops. He stops in front of a narrow apartment entrance, the kind of place forgotten by the world, unless someone needs a place to disappear. His chest tightens. He recognizes the street lamp from the blurry video call, the boarded wall from the frame he paused and stared at for hours. Suddenly, her stories make a different kind of sense. The silences, the half-truths, the invented safe places she wished she lived in. Elias approaches the door slowly, not knowing if she's behind it or if this is simply a clue. She hoped he'd understand. He raises his hand to knock, then hesitates, imagining her on the other side, bracing for judgment she thinks she deserves. He presses his palm flat against the door instead, whispering her name as if saying it gently might ease whatever pain she's carrying. There's a faint sound inside. Footsteps, hesitant and uneven. The door opens a few inches, and for the first time, Elias sees the real Marin. Her face is the same one he memorized through screens, but the softness is threaded with something rawer, more fragile. She doesn't speak at first. Her eyes dart between his and the ground, as if searching for a safe place to rest. Elias waits, refusing to rush the moment. When she finally whispers his name, it trembles like a confession. She steps back to let him in, and he follows quietly. The room is small, worn, nothing like the places she described in her stories. Yet there's a strange comfort in its honesty. Marin sits on the edge of her bed, hands clasped tightly, as if afraid she might disappear if she lets go. Elias takes a slow breath and sits across from her, the air between them filled with every truth they've avoided. Marin begins to speak in fragments, pieces of a past she never thought she'd share. She tells him the rescue wasn't her, that she never meant for the lie to last more than a single message. She admits she saw the article about his accident months after it happened and reached out because she recognized the loneliness in his words. She wanted to comfort him, not trick him, but when he thanked her, when he told her she had saved him, she panicked. She didn't know how to step backward without losing him completely. She explains the mugshot in a quiet voice, not defending it, simply acknowledging it as a part of her that never healed. Elias listens without interrupting, absorbing every tremble in her voice. The truth hurts, but not in the way he expected. It feels like watching someone show their scars for the first time, terrified of what they'll see reflected back. Elias takes a long breath before speaking. He doesn't tell her it's okay, because it isn't, not the lie, not the fear, not the silence, but he also doesn't step away. Instead, he asks the question he's been afraid to face. What would you be if you didn't have to hide? Marin freezes. The room goes still. No one has ever asked her that before. Slowly, she lifts her gaze, and for the first time since he arrived, he sees something shift inside her. A flicker of hope untainted by fear. She says she doesn't know. Elias nods, telling her softly that maybe they can both find out, separately or together, without lies shaping the way forward. She exhales a shaky breath, the kind that sounds like release. When he finally stands to leave, there is no anger, no dramatic ending, just a quiet understanding that they are stepping into a new chapter of themselves, not as illusions, but as people learning to breathe without height.